Hello everyone, this is Jim Nix with NomadicPursuits.com, and in this video we're going to talk about creativity with textures using Aurora HDR 2018. Because Aurora has layers, you can apply any sort of image file or adjustments on any layers that you would like, and that's one of the great things about the flexibility of this tool. So let's get into it. I've got this 3 exposure HDR, and I want to go ahead and apply a texture to it. So I'm on the base layer here. I just want to apply a new layer, and I want to add a new image layer. Now this opens up a box where you can go grab any file off your desktop or external hard drive or wherever you may keep these. I just want to note that texture files are not built into Aurora. You would need to purchase these or create these yourself. Now this is one I've captured and I use quite a bit on my photos. That's called Grungy Wall, so that's going to apply as a new layer, and of course it comes in at 100%, covering the base layer entirely. So my first move is usually just to take that opacity down to about 20%. So let's say about right there. I think that looks good, and now I can actually see better because it's not covering the entire photo. Now one thing I like about the photo is some of the texture on these cars, and I don't want the texture from the texture file, this grungy wall layer, to completely cover that up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and click on the brush, and I'm going to click on erase and make sure my opacity is at 50%, and I'm just going to erase some of that texture file from these cars, especially this one up front. I like the blue and I like the look of the car. I don't want to totally lose all of that in the buried under that texture file. I'm also taking a little bit off of that TP, and I'm going to swipe over here a little bit just to take a little bit off of those cars as well. You can always check your mask with that button right there, and there you go. You can see what I've done. At 50% opacity, some of the original is coming through and yet some of the texture remains. So I'm going to say that I'm done. Now, I'm not actually done with the photo. There's a couple of things that I usually experiment with on textures. The first is blend modes. You can click here, and you can just click through and see how a blend mode change will impact the photo. Sometimes you find things that look great, and sometimes you don't, and every photo is really different, so I just recommend experimenting. I'm going to stay in the normal blend mode here, and what I'm going to do is add a new layer. This one's going to be an adjustment layer. And what I want to do with this is go grab a preset. I like to do this a lot of the time, so I'm going to open up presets. I'm in the dramatic category, and I like this Sleepy Forest. Now I just hit that to 20, so let me increase that to 100% strength. So now I've added a new layer, stuck the Sleepy Forest preset on it, and it comes in at 100%. I think that looks pretty cool, but it's not exactly the look that I want, so I'm going to reduce the opacity of this to about 65, let's say. I think that looks pretty nice. And now one thing to know about presets is because they're collections of filters with adjustments made, you can tell which filters are used because of the color. If they're orange, you'll know that that filter was used in the preset. And so the one thing I don't like about this preset is there's a little too much shadow. And because I'm really familiar with some of these tools, especially image radiance, I know that most of that shadow is coming from this tool. So there's 2 ways you can fix that here. You can reduce the amount of image radiance, which will also correspondingly reduce the shadow. And then you can also come over here and just move the shadow slider on the image radiance tool to sort of brighten that up. So there we go. I've changed that a little bit because I don't want to have too much shadow. It was a bright afternoon, and I want these cars to look a little bit more visible and not as covered in shadow. And that's really it for what I do. I take the base photo, I stick a texture file and reduce the opacity in certain areas to make sure some of that base layer can show through, and then I stuck a preset on top. Very quick, very simple, and yet a very powerful change and powerful edit to the photo. You can see the middle exposure from the bracket set compared to the final. You have a much more artistic and creative outcome, and that's how it works in Aurora HDR 2018 with textures. I hope that it helps. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.